What do people get wrong about the gender pay gap? I know this is something that you've looked at quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to say. I mean, I guess first of all, I'd say it's not a gap between men and women. It's a gap between mothers and fathers. And there's some really excellent, I mean, I love graphics. There's a really great graphic of like different countries. And you see men and women's salaries going up like this together over time. And then women's comes down and men's carries on going. And it's like, well, what happened there? It was all going so well. And then suddenly, boo, and it's like, they had a child, and the women are taking time off work to have a child. They get longer maternity leave in the UK. And if they do go back to work, they go back part-time, if at all. So I'd say it's better seen as a child penalty paid by mothers. And the solution to that penalty is probably something to do with equal paid parental leave for fathers. So if we can give fathers equal leave to mothers, mothers will be able to return to work sooner and then return to their sort of career journey. And the pay gap will be closed through more parental leave for dads. And that's a really good example of like an approach I like to take, where we look at men's and women's issues as symbiotically linked. The problem of one is the problem of another. And like any equation, you've got to look at both sides. So I'd say one side of the problem is the pay gap. The other side is parental leave for fathers. And you've got to solve them both. I mean, there's also a lot of evidence where men work longer hours, men travel further, men work more dangerous jobs and work in industries where are more higher paying, which is true. But then I guess you've got to deal with the discussion of like, well, why are men choosing these jobs? Why are women not working in engineering? Why are women not working in STEM? And there's so much to say about that. But it really comes down to the individual differences of men and women in general. Like, do we have different interests? Do we have different behaviors? And if so, are they shaped by our biology? Are they shaped by our environment? Is it both? And I mean, it's both. It's surely both. So I guess the answer to what you're saying is that men make different decisions. Men behave differently. They go for different jobs. They don't take equal parental leave. They're just different people in general. And a lot of that has an impact on salary. There's a really good, the biggest study ever on the pay gap, I think it was done by Harvard. And they basically looked at Uber drivers in America. So the big reason it was the biggest because they had so much data. Uber obviously has so much data, and men and women both drive Ubers in America. And they looked at the paying, and they were like, well, women are getting paid less at Uber. So how does that make sense? Because it's obviously all automated. So like, what a great way of studying male and female behavior to work out what is in this gap. And there's three things in the gap. The first was men drove at different times of night. So men would do the graveyard shifts, the early mornings where you're getting paid more. They would want to do that. Women less so. The second was that men were more likely to stick with the platform for longer. So they had more experiences and they benefited from that experience. Makes sense of any job. And the third reason, which is 50% of the gap, was that men just drive faster. Just drive a little faster, guys, and then you'll close that gap 50% gone. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's, I mean, yeah,
dude, that's Uber. So funny.
That just shows it wasn't discrimination that was causing the pay gap in Uber. It was just different types of behavior.
Heavy right foot.
Different types of behavior. And I guess we can have a discussion of what shapes that behavior, but we need to start that conversation with it's not discrimination, at least in Uber, different types of behavior. And if you factor in, with men and women, same job, same experience, same level, same hours worked, the pay gap's like 99 cents to the dollar. And in fact, Asian men are paid even more than white men and Asian women. And it's like, well,
Asian privilege, baby.
Yeah, it's like,
that's what we're about. That Asian privilege.
Yeah.
Do you know, I loved learning about this from some of your infographics. And what I love is the conception of the difference is between asking why are women paid less and when are women paid less.
Yeah.
That's the conception, right?
Yeah.
It's not about a reason, it's about a time, and the time is motherhood. The time is becoming a mother. And here's the thing, man, you've seen this in the Scandinavian countries. This was sort of Peterson's big break, 5 or 6 years ago, when he was talking about as you make countries more egalitarian, you see gender differences between the sexes increase, not shrink, because you open up the ability for your biological predisposition, which isn't predetermined, but it is a predisposition for you to be able to go and do the things that you want to do. Now, the interesting thing is, I wonder if you were to say a mother and a father, how much is leaving the UK is like 9 months usually, right, for a mum?
I mean, it's 12 months, but it's sort of split between government and the work.
Right. Okay. So let's say that let's say you increased it. And let's say that there was 18 months and that had to be split between the father and the mother. right? So you have 18 months and that's the household, and you can choose to split this however you want. Something tells me that would be making the system more egalitarian, right? The decision is now completely in the hands of the family. Something tells me that there is a lot of mothers that would just go, looks like I'm getting 17 months and 1 week of leave, like crack on, honey, because it completely fails to account for the fact that women who are mothers a lot of the time love being mothers. For the most part, that's the reason that they chose to become mothers.
Don't say it too loud.
Yeah, presuming that women actually enjoy the experience of becoming a mother, which for lots and lots of my female friends who are writers, who work in offices, who are high-powered, lean-in, career-style boss bitch women, it's been the single most transformative thing that they've done. They absolutely adore it. And if I was to tell them that they had to get themselves back to work earlier, they would feel like they've lost a part of their life.
I'd say the ideal choice for both fathers and mothers is part-time parenting, part-time work. That's what the data says both parents want. Women want it more. Like I've looked, there's been some interesting studies where, like I think it was the New York Times, they asked parents what they wanted. Do you want like part-time work, full-time parenting? And then I found some interesting Bureau of Labour Statistics data on what actually happens, like what is the reality. And it was like the biggest difference between what a parent wants and what they get was full-time dads. So that the vast majority of dads are working full-time, but a lot of them want to be sort of part-time parents. Whereas if you look at the data for like full-time parenting, full-time motherhood, that was actually the closest. That was where what mothers wanted and what mothers got married up the most. So you got like working dads over here, lots of them working full-time, but lots of them wanted to be parents as well. So I'm like, I don't know why we don't see work as not a choice either. Like everyone talks about motherhood isn't a choice, and it isn't. But then dads don't get that choice either. Like they have to go to work. They can't be like, I'm not going to go to work today, because they do. That's how it works. And I don't know if we talk about the sacrifices fathers make in that way. Like we do talk about mothers, not enough, and we can talk about them more. But I mean, my dad, he was a career father and he was very successful. He spent his whole life traveling the world, going to conferences, speaking at large events, like really smart guy. But we never saw him. He was out earning money, and my mum took time off from her career to raise my sister and I. And as a result, she's built a massive network of friends, like all her girlfriends around the village. I imagine she met them when she was going to like play school and going to the playground to pick us up. My dad has none of that now. They're both retired, and I guess he's not got that same network of friends that my mum has. And I'm like, the price of his sacrifice is being paid now, but the price of my mum's sacrifice was paid at the time. Now she's enjoying retirement. She's got all her friends. She's got like a family. She's got a great connection to me and my sister because we spent so much time with her. And I'm like, I don't know if my dad has that same benefit, because he spent his life working for us, and he didn't have a choice. He had, if you met my mum, he would not. He had to go to work. And I think we should see the benefit of both, and we should uplift women to become mothers if they want to. Like we should give a woman CEO as much value and respect as a mother. Like both are like just as respectable and just as valuable. And it's like when you talk about a lot of the left, they talk about how sort of empowering women to do whatever they want, women's autonomy. But then it's like the autonomy ends when it's her decision to do something they don't like be a mother. Like what if a mum wants to be full-time mum? And it's like, well, now she's internally oppressed.
And she's been conned by the patriarchy into being a domestic housewife.
She's a proponent of the patriarchy. Of course, she's brainwashed. She has to be brainwashed. Any woman that has a different opinion to me has to be brainwashed. And it's like, again, with like, in a darker sense, like abusive women, like that's a decision women make too. But we ignore that. We don't accept that level of autonomy. When a woman chooses out of autonomy to be abusive or violent, we have a really hard time seeing that and accepting that. Like if a woman who wants to become a CEO, excellent, we love it. A woman who wants to be an abuser, less so. And I'll quote Margaret Atwood to you, but she talked about, my fundamental position is that women are human beings capable of both saintly and evil doings. And I think that's true. Like they're not perfect. They're just as flawed as men are. Like they're no better or worse. And we need to sort of see them in the full sort of colour beauty. And good or bad, that's what autonomy is. And I don't know if we extend that autonomy to that breadth in motherhood or anywhere else. And God, that is a real tangent.